Hey everybody, we got this 1976 Moto Guzzi convert for free actually. Um, it's kind of hard to find them especially with the trunk and the hard bags in place because, well, they're just difficult to find, and when you do, they're very expensive. But um, it's unfortunate the guy had let it sit outside uh, for a few years. And but the early models did have the Barani spoked rims, which I prefer over the cast rims. They're a lot lighter, and there's some subtle differences in the switch gear, and they made some other changes later in the years. But basically, I mean, it is the same bike. I I had no spark on either of the cylinders. And there were some bad connections at the fuse box. It turns out the kill switch was bad as well, and this switch was not working, so that obviously didn't help matters at all. um, I could tell because I had power. I wasn't getting power to the coils. um, so here's the kill switch in, here's the kill switch out, and I wasn't getting power out, so I tied these in. And I could put a toggle on this kill switch and it would effectively do the same thing as this is doing on the handlebar, so it's not a big deal. So when the key goes on, the coils get power here now, so it took me a while to trace that out. Um, when I did get power to the coils here, the power lead runs and then it splits off to both coils, separate coils for each set of points. I still didn't have spark at one of the cylinders. And so the ended up replacing this set of points here. And I believe the condenser was bad because I replaced the condenser as well. And that fixed it. It looks like the way these points are worn is that they were probably the original points and probably sitting outside as far as the condenser goes. Who knows? It could have got some water in there. Or it may have likely have been why the guy parked it, because not only was he not getting spark to the switch, the kill switch, but it also had a bad condenser. And I don't think he was. I don't think he just wanted to mess with any of it. So anyway, I had a spare condenser. I did have to add some length to the cable, and I had to split it and add some length on there. So I just potted it with a connector. You put a connector on there and pot it with some RTV, and just to see if I was. So anyway, here's the new coil, and yeah, a few hours worth of fiddling, and it's got spark to both cylinders. So the air box goes up under. I'll tell you, the air box on these things is the silliest thing I've ever seen. It's very difficult to get out. I mean, it's just a pain to get out. You almost have to remove. Well, I did. I had to remove the left-hand carburetor because you can't slide this carburetor off the manifold with the air box in place. So anyway, the carbs need rebuilding, so it's not a big deal. But the air box is going in the trash. It is in the trash. I've never seen a worse design. The breathers, yeah, that run to the air box, they sell a different type of breather junction. So all three of these breathers will go to a new junction, and I'll just put pod filters on it. Uh, the idea is to get this thing running and to see not only how it runs, but it seems as if it has good compression. And actually, I've had other Moto Guzzis, and it has fairly, for a Moto Guzzi, fairly low mileage. It has good compression. I have no doubt it'll run. They had another issue with these Moto Guzzis, the early ones. They had torque converter flywheel setup that was a little bit lighter than the later versions, but it also was tended to fracture, and you'd all of a sudden just have no power going forward. I mean, the engine would be running, and it would fracture where it was connected to the crankshaft, and you wouldn't have any forward progress. So I could tell it does have the early flywheel on it. Some people have run them and had no problem, and then other people, quite a few other people, have had failures there. So as I said, it's an automatic, so the idea is just to get it running, see if the transmission and the torque converter, of course the torque converter is in here, and the transmission is here. So I just need to check the torque converter and the transmission. Otherwise, yeah, it's not terrible to split these. People said you got to hang these tiny frame bikes from the ceiling, which you don't. There's a pretty easy way to crab these bikes. Basically, you remove the front wheel, and you get a jack underneath the engine. It's more or less like a scissors jack, and disconnect the frame rails at the back here, and tie the front end down. And it's kind of a chore. I mean, I'm not saying it's not. All this stuff has to come off. Of course, the rear wheel, swing arm, and everything has to come off, but we'll see. I mean, the automatic transmission fluid does smell a little burned to me, so I don't know. We'll see about that. But anyway, the idea is just to get it running, and you can see it. The brakes need to be rebuilt, and the master cylinders are no good. So the idea behind this motorcycle probably would be, rather than to spend a fortune on it, is just get it running, and get it, if you can get it reliably running. Put tires on it, and I mean, I'm not as into cosmetics. It just doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that much to me. I'd rather have a good running a bike. It's fine. The fork tubes probably are, unfortunately, I mean, I can take those off and buff out that stuff, but I don't know. The other convert I have is much cleaner, and I just love it. It goes down the road beautifully. I didn't have to put as much work into this convert. It's not as if I didn't have to work on it, but again, I got it basically not running. But the bike was very complete and in much nicer condition. I do like the top trunk on this bike, just because it's convenient. You can see there's some of the difference in the older one and the newer one, but basically they're the same bikes. So anyway, that's kind of a part one on it, and I'll do some more sequential videos as it comes along. And hopefully I've got to get the front brake working, because I got to get this thing down to my other shop, and it's a downhill. So you can imagine, jump on here, go downhill. It's pretty good downhill to the other shop, and no way to stop it. So at the very least, this master cylinder's got to go, and I got to rebuild or replace the front caliper. So anyway, I hope everybody's having a good summer, and thanks for watching.